Well, Parween Mander was 16 years old when the bank told her family they were on the verge of losing their home. This experience set Parween on a path to become financially independent, and she ended up saving $150,000 in 5 years. Now Parween coaches first-generation women of color on how to break down negative mindsets around money and build wealth. Parween joins us this morning from Vancouver to tell us more. Good morning, Parween.
Good morning, Andrea. Thank you so much for having me here today.
It's a pleasure to have you. $150,000 in 5 years. I want to know everything. Talk to me about this accomplishment. What did you do to achieve this?
Absolutely. And so I think it's first really important to acknowledge that when I started this wealth building journey, there were no money mentors that looked like me and who I could relate to within the personal finance space. So that was definitely a gap that I noticed. And on my wealth building journey, what I did, especially specifically within those 5 years, was number one, focus on increasing my income. And I think as a woman of color, negotiating for your salary, finding ways to bring more income isn't really talked about enough when it comes to the personal finance advice that we see. So I started, out of university making $30,000 a year. Last year, at the end of 2021, I brought in $110,000 a year. So a huge difference, and that was a huge reason why I was able to, increase my savings and be more flexible with my savings.
So good. Knowing how to negotiate for yourself is key. And talk to us about how traditional financial advice excludes women and women of color.
Absolutely. And so I think it's really important that we first acknowledge who is giving, wealth building advice typically. Not usually someone that looks like us, right? So I think it's important to acknowledge the privilege that comes from being from a certain background and having access to certain resources. Now, specifically, advice like stop spending on clothes and makeup. While as a woman of color, we always need to look the part and we feel increased pressure to do so. So saying stop spending on clothes and makeup isn't really inclusive of that experience. Otherwise, as well, being exclusive of, being a woman of color and the gender expectations that we face within our cultures of being a people pleaser, of being a good daughter, and how this can translate into our finances, of giving money away to family members, undercharging for our services, overspending on gifts. All these things directly impact our ability to save and pay off debt.
Yeah, absolutely. Every single one of those points rings true for me as well. So how does growing up with immigrant parents influence mindsets around money?
Absolutely. Definitely this idea that money is a tool for survival, right? And not one is meant to be enjoyed. So for me personally, I definitely had a response where I was very frugal with my money. I had anxiety letting go of my money. And that definitely influenced my relationship with money as well. Another thing I think as well is that typically immigrant cultures are collectivist cultures, meaning you value the community over oneself. And so that can look like, again, what will other people think when it comes to our finances as well? So that might be, not being able to have open and honest conversations about money, right? Not being able to say no to things because you don't want to seem like you can't afford it.
Yeah, okay, so in the beginning, as I mentioned, you saved $150,000 in 5 years, which is incredible. So if there's someone watching right now who's in a lot of debt, they're a young person, they're trying to figure out, how do I do that? What 3 pieces of advice can you offer women of color who want to start being more financially independent?
Absolutely. Number one, I want to encourage you to stop avoiding your finances and stop aligning with the identity that you are bad with money. Okay, so let's help you get started today. Number one, I want you to conduct a financial audit. This is downloading your past 3 months of bank statements and credit card statements. And I want you to be able to answer the question of, where has your money been going? Number two, I want you to reflect on those 3 months of bank statements and find categories, maybe like takeout, groceries, things like that, and set a goal to reduce spending in that category by 20%. I also want you to focus on your bills that you're paying each month and find ways to either negotiate or eliminate those if possible. Again, just increasing the amount of cash flow that's available. Once we get that cash flow available, set an automatic transfer per paycheck. Okay, I don't even care if it's $50 a week, $20 a week. Get that started, put that towards your savings account, and start building your number one financial priority, which is your 3-month emergency fund. And lastly, I want you to journal about a very painful or confusing money memory. Okay, the reason for this is, again, we want to understand why you're showing up with money today the way that you are. And so we need to reflect on some of these important narratives and experiences that you've had to understand, again, how your perception of money today.
Great tips. Thank you so much for taking the time to share those with us, Parween. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. You as well.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this, be sure to subscribe here, or you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.